I'd like to welcome everyone back to our podcast, Unloaded. This is Michael Seahorn.
And Shannon Morrow.
And we're all very happy that everybody is with us again. Shannon, how are you?
I'm well. Yeah, all of us being the two of us.
Correct. And then all of the people who will be listening to us this week. So I appreciate that. All right, man. It's been another busy week.
Yep, as usual.
As usual, man. It's been crazy. Got through Memorial Day weekend a few weeks back, and the short weeks are nice, man. Those little 4-dayers, yeah. they come in handy.
Yep.
They just put a little fresh air in everybody.
Just that extra day, man. It makes a big difference.
It makes a lot of difference, man. What else has been going on? It's been pretty busy. Had a malware virus issue at the company, and
that's fun.
Right. It's crazy. Is we've created our own website here at Unloaded. I've created my own website for Raven 8, and the company I work at that's been farmed out. I have a website developer who did that, and she's great. Well, she just happened to be on vacation, or not vacation. Rephrase that. Her and her family have moved from northern Nevada down to southern Nevada, down to Vegas. Happened to be gone this week, so we've been getting some weird things going on, and emails not working and things like that. So it was routed back to, we had a malware issue on the website. So spent the better part of the entire day Thursday trying to, get into the code. And long story short, got it all figured out. Took pretty much the entire day, but it's just funny to me that, it's like the things that generally someone else helps me with, and I could just make a quick call or a quick text message, man. It's like, sorry, man, unavailable.
That's on you.
It's on me to get it figured out, which is fine. I don't mind, but it's like everything else starts stacking up. But these relationships that we have with people, they're very important at different levels, I guess, depending on what those relationships are, right? Mm-hmm. And ironically, not really ironically, but currently, I have a few relationships that I've been struggling in. Not at my family level, so I just want to throw that out there now. It's not with my wife or my kids. It's outside of that.
Careful, they're listening.
Exactly. So it's not with my family. It's outside of my family circle. But it's tough because relationships are it's part of us being human beings, right? And Shannon, more than anybody, I love my alone time, man. I love being by myself. I love being out in the mountains, in the ocean, wherever. But I do cherish the very few relationships that I do have. And one of the relationships that I'm struggling in is, it's been I don't know, better part of 9 years, maybe 8, 9. It's been a while. And that relationship has now been stressed to the max. And, I've been thinking a lot about, where do you go when these difficult decisions come upon you, when it deals with another human being, mm-hmm. right? And I think intuitively we know, at least for me, sometimes intuitively, I feel, hey man, maybe that relationship needs to, it needs to end, and it's okay, if that's what has to happen. But what I find in myself, and what I find, talking and listening to other people, is it doesn't matter what the reason is. Sometimes, man, it's still taxing on you, right?
Well, especially as you just said, the ending of a relationship. Relationships inevitably continue to change and evolve and morph, and whether if one measurement, there's many different ones, and it's kind of hard to generalize. But if it's begins getting closer, getting to know each other a little bit better, creating just a good working relationship with one another or whatever, the familiarity state, you're just okay, and it can go along pretty decent for a while, and then inevitably it's going to keep moving different ways, and then when it starts seemingly growing further apart and a little more challenges or difficulties, and it's like, ooh, and it's that is, as you just said, that's when it starts getting taxing to, okay, ooh, this relationship isn't as easy or comfortable as it was. It's being challenged now, and how we respond to that is very case by case. And, and sometimes the response is all the way as drastic to that one end of the scale, as you say, to end the relationship. Now, a lot of other times, it's a growth opportunity, effing growth opportunity, man. You got to, okay, why is this triggering me? I wonder kind of what their experience is. Can I face this, or am I going to avoid it? Am I just gonna, I'm out, or am I, is this relationship worth the increased difficulties and efforts now of facing it and working through it?
Yeah, it's, like I said at the beginning, relationships are a part of us being human beings, and they're important. They're important. But when I feel that there's any self-suffering that's becoming attached to my decision making, then I tend to start to try to dig a little deeper, right? Because if I'm having emotional responses, or I'm feeling the emotional responses, and I'm having a little bit of self-suffering internally, then I know that I need to sit and really, think about what, like you said, where's the cause at? Like what is the trigger system? Is it a trigger? In my case, this was something that was out of my control, and but unfortunately, it had a very negative reflect back on me because it was a shared business thing. So it's just difficult because, you, on one hand, I'm like, well, you could go down the repair path, right? You could try to repair it and try to figure it out. And then on the other hand, sometimes I have a tendency just to be like,
yep. Thank you for recognizing your tendency.
Yeah, that. I know this.
This is uncomfortable. I'm out.
Yeah. I'm out. Good luck. I appreciate the time. So I've just been letting this take its course.
Yeah.
I didn't want to make a very brash decision because I was in an emotional response state, right? And I'm going to be honest with you, I was pretty irritated, and I was super frustrated. It happened right before the Memorial Day weekend. Thank the Lord, my brother and my nephew were down for Memorial Day weekend, so I got to hang out with my brother, and he's really good at recognizing when things are going on, and he kind of talked to me a little bit about what you and I are talking about, and he saw that I was just having this very difficult time with it. So I had to put it on the shelf though, because I didn't want to take that away from the time hanging out with my brother and my nephew for the Memorial Day holiday weekend. So put it on the shelf, and said, hey, I'll come back next week and address it and think about it.
Yep. Just, okay, I'm going to table it. I'm aware it's there. I'm not ignoring it or burying it. And just, now's not the right time. Yeah. I'll get to it.
So, still haven't really made a decision one way or the other, to be honest with you. So,
and there's a big middle path in here as well. I appreciate this scale we're creating, as usual. But, on one side of the scale, I'm out. I'm done. It's over. Bye-bye. On the other side of the scale, what is this? Let's look at this. Let's confront this. Let's work through this. I'm putting a lot of effort toward trying to repair, fix, make better, or whatever. And those are each kind of the extreme sides of the scale. There's, I think if we, then in the middle there, that beautiful neutrality of just like, here it is. Okay. Like this is what it is currently. It is what it is. And just slowing down, taking a breath, looking at it, maybe a little bit, maybe not, to varying degrees of what we even want to try to observe it or figure it out a little, but just kind of being with it and just, okay, boy, this is challenging for me, it's triggering for me, I'm quite frustrated, and as you just described, I'm just going to sit with it here or shelf it for a little bit. sometimes non-action can be the best course.
Yeah, and I am very aware, and I know you are as well, and I'm sure that our listeners are aware, is obviously depending on the relationship is going to drastically drive where you're at. If you're talking about if you're being if you have intimacy with another human being, right? If it's your I don't care what the relationship is, wife, girlfriend, whatever, boyfriend, when the intimacy is in there and you're building a relationship that you love somebody, I mean, obviously that's going to be a real different looking path comparatively to what I'm talking about, with a quote unquote a friendship, right? Mm-hmm. But I do still believe that even in, my own personal life is anytime I feel that those relationship things are coming up or you're struggling, because we all struggle, man. Sure. It's just part of life. It's part of being human. I think that for me really has a large impact on the direction I take.
Yeah.
Right. Because I used to be the opposite guy. I used to be the very quick anger guy, right? The very quick F it, roll out, peace out, leave you in the dust, and I wouldn't turn around for nothing. I'm just heading a different direction. Good luck, right? Now, like I said, I do realize that, that relationships are so unique between human beings, and you got to really think about, if you're having a lot of self-suffering in a relationship, man, you really need to sit maybe and think about what's driving that self-suffering. And I'm not one that's going to sit here and tell you that I'm innocent in any way, shape, or form. I have my own human issues, but I'm also not afraid to admit things to people. Mm-hmm. I'm over that.
Yeah,
that hump.
Yeah, you've developed that through the years to now you are mostly able to speak clearly and speak straight. Like, hey, this is, I mean, that's generally pretty scary. That's generally something that's avoided. Most of us have a lot of avoidance or difficulty with confronting something in a clear, honest, even vulnerable conversation.
Yeah, we've talked about them in some of our prior episodes, man. Those difficult conversations are difficult for a reason. It's because there's a lot of emotion attached to the relationship.
It is. That's it. And when the emotion starts driving, because that's, as we've also talked about, that's our first indicators is when these emotions are coming up for us and getting our attention, but then often what happens, those emotions then continue to be the driver all the way through the communication, then that communication often comes out quite unintended, not as we really want. And so you've developed the skill. Many of us are working at being able to, there's the emotion. Okay, slow down, take a breath. Let's just pause. And now what's this about within me? What might they be going through? Okay. And then to proceed forward with the conversation, in not as emotional of a way.
Yeah, and just for our listeners, man, again, you got to remember that I've been trying to work on this for 11 straight years, and I still get it wrong a lot of the times.
That's how it goes.
Right? But what I have found is I feel like I get a lot more out of relationships when I'm not afraid to just have that honest conversation. Even if it's in your intimate world, you just have to understand that obviously how I speak to my wife or my daughter or my sons is vastly different from a staff member or a friend or whatever the relationship is. But in any of the context, when I feel that self-suffering, I feel that emotional charge, I'm trying more and more to remind myself, man, sometimes silence is the best thing for you in the moment. Just as hard as it is, because we've talked like 3, 4, 5 episodes ago, man, where that didn't work out for me, and I went the opposite direction. And lot of self-suffering, which then drove me to the Big Island, which in itself was a great story in the aircraft and the whole thing. So, but if we can just be honest with ourselves and just remind ourselves, man, if you are feeling that emotional charge and you just raring to get after somebody, just take 1 second to maybe go, hey, it's okay if you stay quiet. It's okay to be still for a moment, And sometimes just in that very second, sometimes it's enough to go, you know what? I think this might need to wait. Maybe I can come back to this conversation later today or tomorrow or 2 days or 3 days, because there's no time limit, right?
Generally, sometimes time is a little more important than others.
Sure.
And this, thank you. It's when we are having those emotions, it's okay to be experiencing those. We're not trying to, in our pause, in our taking a moment, it's not trying to get those emotions to go away. Actually, opposite, to honor those. Yeah, I am feeling pissed off. Okay, good to know. Let's allow for that. Let's recognize that. Let's honor the anger I'm experiencing. And once we can allow for, just have some acceptance for our experience, our emotion, and then it's much more manageable. Okay, it's okay I'm feeling this way. There's reasons why I'm feeling this way. Not trying to change too much of that. And I don't want to communicate from these feelings.
Yeah, no, well said, man. It's quite a thing, these relationships. And I hear a lot of other podcasters and some people I personally listen to, and obviously I do a lot of reading. It's sometimes we hold on to things a little too long, and I think that goes for a lot of things in life. We have a tendency as humans to really just, we got a hold of that thing, man. We don't want to let it go. And what I have found in my personal life is sometimes there's so much healing in letting go. There's some healing in just letting go of something, or if that something is bringing you a lot of suffering. And if you can let it go and just refocus on yourself and refocus on, hey, man, let me figure out what's going on in here before I really try to put a lot of energy into trying to figure out what's going on with another person or another human being. Generally, I find that you'd be quite surprised what you see internally in those opportunity times. You know what I mean?
That's it. And it's such an interesting concept, or even the phrase letting go. Like, whoa, wait, how do we let go? It's not letting go of me. How do I let go of it? And what does that mean? Just let it go. I can't, it's still coming up, but I think what kind of the direction you were going was refocusing our attention. Like, it's really coming up for me. It's kind of spinning in my mind. And I just it keeps really getting my attention in there. And so we can't just let it go per se, but we can move things that direction a little by, okay, instead of continuing to feed this, instead of perpetuating it by giving it so much of my attention, instead I'm going to turn my attention to this. Just like not keep feeding it, not keep spinning it. Turn my attention away for a little while. Give my attention to something that's probably a little more beneficial in this moment, that won't get me so wound up.
Yeah, it's when I talk about letting go, so when I grew up, we didn't have a lot. So, and Shannon can chime in on this because I'm sure he's well better suited to speak on this, but what I have seen is when you don't grow up with a lot, or you grow up in a very difficult place, what I have found in my personal life is I tend to want to hold on to everything. And that includes stuff, right? I don't want to get rid of this. I don't want to get rid of that. My wife, she was kind of chuckling the other day. We were looking at some old pictures, and she's like, good God. She's like, look at the beanie you're wearing. I'm like, yeah, I see it. She's like, you still got it. And that was like 20 years ago, right?
You haven't worn it in 12 or 14 years.
Oh, I wear it every day almost.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Yeah.
It's kind of my, I'm a weird cat when it comes to headphones. I know it's kind of off topic, but when I'm at my home office with headphones on, I tend to like my beanie and I like to wear my headphones over the top of it. So it sits on my desk and I wear it all the time. But I've had it for 20 years. Not getting rid of that thing, man. I love it, right? But I did find earlier in my life is that I was just not wanting to let go of anything, man. Whether it was tools or clothes or
Keep it all. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd wear a shirt until I had 40 holes in it. You know what I mean? If I let it go, and then through some of this self-healing journey that I've been on, I've realized, like, man, you need to look at this, man. So now I'm a little bit easier and a little bit better of, quote unquote, letting go of things and not just having a death grip on things, man, right? And sometimes I have found and I have seen and people have shared with me is, even maybe in a relationship that's, I want to be careful on the verbiage, maybe on a relationship that maybe isn't the healthiest. So I think that's fair to say. Sometimes you can see people still wanting to just, they got that death hold on it, and I understand that. I know where that's coming from. I've been there in my past. It's difficult to let go of those relationships. Even if maybe intuitively we know, you know what, man, I think it's time that it's okay to let this relationship go and I go in a different direction. I know it's not easy, and I'm not saying that is easy, but what I have seen, though, is, sometimes, and it's funny, too, is it's not funny, but it's very ironic to see, if you ever see somebody that's in an unhealthy relationship for an extended period of time, and then they finally do come to the point where they let it go and they move on, it's like a different person 6 months down the road. Like you run into them or you're talking to them, and you're just like, you can see this whole different aura of this person, and it's refreshing to see that, and a lot of times they'll just tell you, oh man, I feel good. I went back to the gym and I'm whatever. You know where I'm going with that, right? So what's your opinion on that, Shannon?
On what?
On the thought. What's your thought on this, the difficulty there to sometimes to what you were talking about, letting things be. Yeah, maybe not letting go, but maybe letting things be. What I have found too is I've had some relationships where at the time I thought they were ended, that the season has come, and you take a step back and you go a different direction. Then like 3 months later, it's rekindled, or you're back to talking to that person. You know what I mean? So it's just I don't know, man. It's such a weird world in the relationship. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we're up here in pretty abstract level. It's hard to, because it's so like case by case. It's really depends on each the individual relationship and all the circumstances, and a lot of those are always changing. It's a very dynamic thing, and in the actual nuts and bolts of it. But kind of toward, I think the analogy holds, like as you described, growing up without as much, and so a natural tendency to hang on to stuff more even when you don't need it. And I think that comes from, just that general, like, what if I might need this down the road? That even kind of rooted in fear, like, I might regret getting rid of this. I might need it again. I might, fear of loss, or, just a avoidance of loss, or it's because generally I think that's what's underneath. If we are letting go, that does underneath there imply loss. And so that's scary. That's, if I got rid of this old t-shirt, even though it has 40 holes in it, but what if, I don't even know, but, or change, fear of loss, fear of change, fear of the unknown. Most of our stuckness stuff often originates from fear.
Yeah. And I think I might have hit on it briefly when, back a long time ago in our early episodes. I think I talked about a little bit when I first went through group therapy at the VA. The program was really driven around stuck points. That's the terminology they used. And what I found very helpful in those 12 weeks was simply writing down on a piece of paper what the stuck point was that I was dealing with at the time. And it could have been anything under the sun. But obviously for me, a lot of it was anger and just lashing out at people and having no filter or no... my hot button was hot all day. It never cooled off. But through that exercise of writing down, like, I'm stuck on whatever. What they were teaching us to do was to restructure that sentence, restructure that stuck point, so we can start to change that thought in our mind. Now, early on, I'll be honest with you, I thought it was a bunch of hocus pocus stuff. I didn't think it was a real thing. But what I came to find out real quickly is when you put some energy into that and you actually try to allow that to work, just that simple process was a huge help. Because what it was starting to do is to trigger your mind to think differently.
There it is. Challenging those thoughts, those problematic beliefs, the false beliefs, actually.
Yep. Yeah. And I have now used that as a huge crutch, if you will, in my own personal life across a lot of different things that if I'm stuck on something, that's what I still do to this day is I'll write it out. Okay, why am I still so stuck on being angry when somebody cuts in front of me in traffic? Right? It sounds simple, but if y'all haven't seen lately, roads are insanity out there, man. It's craziness going on. So I've had to learn to rewrite that thought in my mind is that, hey, if the guy that's such a hurry to get in front of me, he's going to still be in front of me for the next 40 miles. So it's not a big deal. But it used to be a huge deal, you know? So I had to change that thought process, and through that writing, that little teeny tiny writing exercise, man, it's helped tremendously to get a lot of traction getting over these stuck points.
Yep. Yeah. A lot of stuck points come from the, if then type, because when we can back out of that and evaluate, if I concede that, like, oh, wait, I miscalculated that, I made an error in that, but then people will think I'm untrustworthy, or people won't, think I'm capable or competent or whatever, if then, but to be able to challenge those problematic beliefs, like as you just described, that then it really helps get unstuck.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing, our relationships with other human beings. And if you have them, you're blessed, man. Just remind yourself that sometimes if you're feeling like you're just having some issues, man, just try to take a moment to look inside and just do a little self-eval like Shannon was talking about earlier. It helps tremendously. And don't be afraid just to own what you got to own, man.
It's hard, man. It is difficult. Scary. Thank you.
It's difficult, man.
To own our own stuff.
It is.
Ooh, yeah, of course I get angry about this. Of course that stuff really upsets me. And okay, that's okay. We're all human, and to have grace for ourselves, to just care for ourselves and allow for our humanness, and it's okay, man. And acceptance, it's quite, in time, it takes practice. It's difficult at first, especially, but you just kind of stay with that and just keep practicing, persevere, and you will find it gets easier, and life in general just gets a little lighter.
Gets a lot lighter, man. It really does. It gets a lot lighter, and to be quite frank with you, I think a lot of people appreciate when you're just being a little bit honest. If you've I've told the listeners in the past, there have been times where I've had to open up and apologize in front of my entire staff because of the way I handle something. I don't do that to put on a show. I do that because it has to happen. It needs to happen. I'm the senior leader of the company. And for them to be able to see that, hey, if our senior leader is okay with just saying, hey, man, I didn't handle that appropriately. I could have handled it better, and I apologize for that. That's not weakness, man.
On the contrary.
It's on the contrary, right? It's showing that you've got enough strength in yourself to admit that maybe you didn't do something that you thought you could have done better.
There are a lot of senior leaders that are not capable of doing this.
We could do a 4-week podcast on that, but not today.
Not today.
Not today. Well, Shannon, it's been a good podcast today.
Yeah.
I always appreciate your insight, man.
Yeah, likewise.
I do appreciate that.
Yeah.
For the listeners out there, just remember there's help out there if you need it. The 988 is out there for you if you are feeling that you need a little bit of help, or maybe there's somebody you need to talk to. It's free. Give them a call. Don't be afraid to look in your local area. And as for me, Mike Seahorn,
Shannon Mora,
this will be our episode for the week. And I hope everyone has a good week, and we'll catch you on the next episode.